Almost forgot to add myself to the stream. That's how distracted I have been lately. Um, well, Uncle Bill was supposed to join me tonight. Now, I didn't get any confirmation or, confirmation either way, whether he was going to be on here or not. So I may have to go back and check my phone, which I mistakenly left in the other room, if he doesn't show up shortly. Um, but X Ray, it looks like you're in here. And I'm not sure if anybody else is going to show up for this. Again, I think maybe um, goodness, this hair. I think maybe I might have overestimated the popularity of how this might pan out. Um, I'm guessing I thought there were more Twin Peaks fans than maybe there are. Um, it could be X-ray. Looking at that, I call it pupy, but CK tells me it's poopy. So I don't really know what it is. I call it like pupy, like a you know something like a pulpy or I don't know. And perhaps I am saying it wrong. Um, but anyways, I hate to call a guy poopy if that's not really his name. So anyway, hey Texas, that's okay. Nobody has to be, in here at a certain time. It's just I'm talking about like overall. I think I overestimated the popularity of how a Twin Peaks stream would be because there haven't even been as many watchers on later on the Twin Peaks stream, even though it was the first part was down a little bit because I had to do some editing to it because I didn't want CBS to come after my ass and mess things up for my channel that I have been, slowly building over time. So, actually, you say I pronounce it poopy baklava. Again, for those of you that are just now coming in, I don't see Uncle Bill down there just yet. Like I said, if he's not in here within a few minutes, I'll go back and check my phone, see if he's sent me a message. Even if I don't hear from him, if he's not in here, um, within I don't know, 15 minutes, then I say I should probably and go ahead and start discussing these episodes rather than keep people waiting. But I will show off my shirt because I had to get one after I saw Dirk. So this is my official City of the Living Dead, aka Gates of Hell shirt. I really should have a Twin Peaks shirt on, but I can't find my Twin Peaks shirt. I don't know where it's at. So perhaps before I do the final stream for the original series, maybe I'll have found it by then. But I also got, and I think Uncle Bill and CK make fun of people that get these um, enamel pins. But I thought this one was pretty cool. This is a happy birthday to me enamel pin from Gutter Garbs, which of course is where I got the shirt at. I just think that's pretty cool. I'll probably set it up somewhere. This is the first time I've worn it, X-Ray, because I just got it today. Um, Steve probably won't let me wear this shirt out when I'm out and about in town because he'll probably think it's embarrassing or something. But I mean, he probably wouldn't mind if I wore it to a horror convention or something like that. But as we're just going out to Walmart or going out to a restaurant or something like that, he's probably not going to want me to wear it. But well, being as I'm not Catholic, I won't be going to Sunday Mass X-ray, but there are a lot of Catholics in Louisville, and I'm not putting down Catholics at all. I guess technically TJ's Catholic, and I like him as well as I do anybody. Um, so uh, we just got about 3 people in here. I think I am going to step back there and grab my phone real quick. If y'all can permit me to do that for a second, and regardless, we'll go ahead and get started here in just a little bit. I do have some good, a little bit of good news about Brandon, though. I will talk about that for a second. Um, he ate quite a bit late last night, and he's doing well with his eating today. He's eating a lot more than he was, fortunately. Um, and I'm not trying to gross anybody out. His bowel movements were solid through the day. He had just a little bit of diarrhea this evening. But I'm hoping that give him another day or so when he should be, better. And of course, I don't know what in the world, why I cannot keep this thing like I used to. It will not tilt and just keeps falling off of the monitor. Like I'll be sitting here doing work and shake the desk a little bit, doing something, and guys, it's freaking burning up in here. Sorry. Um, I just noticed it is just blazingly hot back here. And I keep, using the Nest thermostat thing to turn this freaking, well, but it's got to get cooler back here at some point. Jesus. I mean, I know it's been like 80 something degrees today, but it is just, that's why I hate this back room, but this is the only place really that Steve and I can put our computers. Um, because I probably explained this before. This was a room that was built on, and it's not insulated real good. So in the wintertime, it's freezing cold back here, and we have to run a heater on ourselves. In the summertime, it's blazing hot. So, yeah, can't, you know, can't win. Can't win for losing, can you? Um, so again, I don't know what's going on with my camera. I mean, I know again I've got a TV for a monitor instead of a regular computer monitor. To see, that's how it does now all the time. When I first got it, I was able to get it. If I don't quit fooling with it, it's probably going to just fall completely off of there. But anyway, um, I should do all this adjusting before I actually start doing things back here. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to wear my hat back here. Everything just seems to be irritating the shit out of me today. Like my hat's rubbing. I love this new shirt, but I got a large thinking that it would have a little room in it, but you know, um, women have breasts. So, you know, even if you get the women's shirts, and I didn't get a woman's shirt, I got a man's shirt. Even if you get a woman's shirt, unless you got itty bitty boobs, they're gonna feel like they're gonna bust out of the shirt. And so I don't have little bitty boobs. I mean, I'm not meaning to talk about my breasts, but I don't have little bitty boobs, so I don't have A cup size. Mine are quite a bit bigger, so it just feels like they're just getting ready to explode out of the shirt. And like I said, if you get the lady shirts, they still don't make room for regular size to larger size boobs. You know, feel like it, and it just, I love my t-shirts and I love my horror t-shirts, but it seems like all the horror t-shirts you get, they are so form fitting that unless you get a gigantic size, you're not going to really have any room. I mean, it's even tight in my arms, and I don't have really big arms. So, yeah, I'm just complaining. I'm just on here complaining about stuff. Um, so, guys, I'm thinking that Uncle Bill is not going to show tonight because it's quarter after 8. And I really don't want to make you guys that were on time wait on here. So I'm thinking he probably just forgot, or I don't know, something came up. I don't know if Dead Pit's doing anything tonight. I really haven't a clue. I don't keep, I can't keep track of what people are doing. Um, so I guess the next thing is that History of Evil Dead on home video that I will be on. Um, I'm guessing that's the next thing. But anyway, um, I'm just gonna go ahead and get started. Perhaps I should have started these later. I don't know. But I watched almost all of the episodes, so I'm a little bit better than I was last time for the first one. So we're gonna talk about season two's hold on guys. Um Season two's episode Arbitrary Law. Um so I think that's where I'm starting at. Or maybe I'm not starting there. Sorry, guys. Just a little confused here. Okay. Hold on just a second. Let me get my bearings here because they don't, unfortunately, it seems like they show them out of order here. Um, Hold on just a second. I'm so sorry, guys, that I get confused and I look at this stuff and I think I know where I'm leaving off at, and then I just get totally I get totally confused when I go to look at these. Um, Hold on just one second here. We are in the second season. Okay. So actually, I'm starting with Laura's Secret Diary. So sorry, guys. So that is episode 11. And I was just a little bit ahead of myself here. So we're down to two people now. I fumbled around with stuff. So this episode 11, Laura's Secret Diary. This was released originally October 20th, 1990. So in this episode, Leland confesses to murdering Jacques Renault. And then there's a little side story to this one, that a food critic going by the pseudonym MT Wentz will be visiting Twin Peaks. And so that's buzzing at the Great Northern, the hotel run by Benjamin Horn. It's buzzing in the Double R Diner, which Norma runs. So everybody is hoping to get a good review from this food critic. They don't know if it's a man or a woman. They don't know anything about them. So everybody's just, eyeballing everybody different. Any strangers that come into town, they're all assuming that, oh, maybe this is the food critic. Okay. And this excites Hank, Norma's ex-con husband, uh, who is now, since being released from prison, he's working at the Double R Diner with Norma. He believes that the positive review could bring new business to the diner. Jean blackmails Ben with a videotape of Audrey being held captive. So, as we all know, in some earlier episodes, um, hey, Blissful. In some earlier episodes, Audrey was kidnapped, because Audrey's always trying to help Agent Cooper, because I think, she's secretly, well, not secretly, I think it's pretty obvious that she has a thing for Agent Cooper. And she's always trying to help him. And Audrey's a little bit naive, not stupid, but a little bit naive, and gets herself in some very compromising positions. In this case, she gets kidnapped and drugged, by Blackie, who we were already introduced to at One Eyed Jack's, which is basically the whorehouse where guys go to have a little fun. And we find out that Laura had worked there. Um, Basically, all the pretty girls that worked at the perfume counter uh, in Benjamin Horn's department store ended up at One Eyed Jack's, dressed in skimpy outfits and basically pleasuring men. So Audrey ends up there and ends up on the wrong side of Blackie and Jean, uh, played by Michael Parks. Uh, Amazingly enough, and I think he does an excellent job in this role. So so basically, Jean Renault and Blackie, kidnapped Audrey and drug her. Maybe heroin that they use. I can't really remember at this point. And so, Benjamin is pretty upset, and he, with all the goings on with Laura Palmer being killed and some other girls in town being killed by this yet unknown killer. Um, a father that cares anything about his daughter would be worried. So uh, they're also demanding $125,000 for a return with Cooper. So Cooper's the drop off man. He's the guy that's got to bring the money. Harold, who I realized I hadn't seen this guy that plays Harold in Twin Peaks since I saw him on an episode of, I believe it was Distant Signals, and was it Tales from the Dark Side? It's either Tales from the Dark Side or Twilight Zone from the 80s. Can't spell tonight either. I should be able to remember that. Oh, maybe it was Tales from the Dark Side. If it was, yeah. So the guy from the Distant Signals episodes of Tales from the Dark Side, season 2, episode 8. And believe it or not, I don't know if David Lynch had seen, or whoever wrote this particular episode had seen that Distant Signals episode previously, because this guy's character in Distant Signals was also Mr. Smith. And in Twin Peaks, he plays Harold Smith. So I thought that, to me, that was a hell of a coincidence. So I won't go into, a really deep discussion about this episode because we've already talked about it. I did not realize, though, this guy died last year. It's Lenny Von Dolan. So I had not seen him. He may have been in some things that I forgot about. He did a lot of voices for like video games and things like that. A Red Dead Redemption 2 being one of them. But I had not really seen him on anything other than that Tales from the Dark Side episode. So I was kind of shocked when I was rewatching these episodes. And I was rewatching these episodes. I was like, oh, man, that's that guy from the Distant Signals episode of Tales from the Dark Side. So anyway, Harold Smith, Lenny Von Dolan's character, is reading excerpts from Laura's diary to Donna, but he refuses to give it to her. And he claims that this is Donna's secret diary, not the diary that the cops kind of confiscated after Laura's murder. And the reason why, or the big reason why Harold refuses to give the diary to Donna is because he says it holds no evidence to her murder. Meanwhile, Josie returns, having been shopping in Seattle, and Pete tells her that Catherine is presumed dead because during the time that Josie was on this shopping trip in Seattle, there was a big fire, an explosion at the mill. And so, they didn't find Catherine's body, but they're just assuming, based on the severity of the fire, that she must be dead. That's what you say. Listening Doobie has the munchies. Uh, a lot of stuff going on in this episode. So Lucy reveals to Andy that she had an affair with Dick Tremaine, who's a pretentious and pretentious indeed he is. Men's fashion salesman who could potentially be the father of her child, and very distastefully offered her money for an abortion. Um, and while Donna is jealous over James' attraction to her, Donna enlists Maddie's help in retrieving Laura's diary. Josie introduces Pete to Jonathan, who she says is her cousin. Now, we're going to find out. Well, I mean, you pretty much find out in this episode that this is not her cousin. Uh, Once Pete leaves, Jonathan tells Josie it's time for her to return to Hong Kong. And then later on in the episode, Jonathan roughs up and threatens Hank at the Double R. So I don't know what happened there. I don't know. I really can't catch a break um with these mice I'm getting from my computer. Now this one wants to act all funky, and I don't tell it to close out these windows or these tabs or whatever, and it just does it. I move it over, and it just closes the damn thing out. Okay, so something I was starting to remember though as I was going back and rewatching these episodes is how freaking annoying James and Donna and Maddie are. Now, Cheryl Lee is awesome at playing Laura, and she's mysterious and beautiful and all that. But when she's playing Maddie and she gets embroiled, and it's almost like a love triangle with her and James and Donna, they get freaking super annoying. And I was like, I don't know how I didn't see this before, but this time around watching them, um, I found them super annoying, and they just got more and more annoying. Donna was always crying, "Don't go, Jane," just crying all the time. And then other times they would, he'd be giving her jewelry, giving her rings and stuff like that. And some people might think the characters of Shelley and Bobby are annoying, but I just think they're funny. That whole thing with, because basically by this point in time, Leo, Shelley's husband, her very abusive husband, is wheelchair bound. His brain is pretty much gone. And so, but I find the interaction between Shelley and Bobby, especially when Leo can't really do anything. So there's one scene in one of these episodes where they're just basically making out on the kitchen table in front of Leo, and he's just sitting there spitting, and then starts going, "New shoes." So that I don't mind. That is just, to me, part of the quirkiness of David Lynch and how he sets things up. But I just really can't stomach that three character whatever it is with Donna, James, and Maddie added into the mix, because Boy, it might have worked years ago, but it does not work for me now. And that does not mean that I hate the show. It just means that I don't care for that. It has no dynamic. It just seems silly and fluff and ridiculous and all that. So, and I know Laura Flynn Boyle, um, and Cheryl Lee especially can act better than that. Laura Flynn Boyle has been in a lot of stuff, and it just seems like her character of Donna, when we were still in the first season, she was okay, but by the second season, and maybe this is why some people don't like the second season, is because of the ridiculousness of those three characters. Um, David, you say, do you prefer the Donna in the movie? Now, if you're talking about Fire Walk with Me, um, I honestly can tell you that I have never seen Fire Walk with Me. I want to and will before we finish up this series, because I definitely want to talk about it um in the third stream for this original series. So I'll have to get back to you on that. I may like the movie version of Donna better than the television show. Oh goodness, so sorry. So that brings us to episode 12, the orchids curse. And orchids are what Harold grows. He has kind of like a greenhouse that he grows those in. So Cooper finds Audrey's note and realizes too little too late that she has gone to One-Eyed Jack's. Hawk discovers that the house Leland claimed to be occupied by Bob is owned by two retired school teachers who have no knowledge of Bob. So they're still, pretty confused about Bob. Who is Bob? Where did Bob come from? Where does he fit in this? And up until this point, we've seen little flashes of Bob, and we know he's a crazy ass, but we don't know that much more about him yet. But in these episodes, we're going to discover quite a bit more about Bob. X-ray, you say, this is the season where that Chinese lady turned into a doorknob. Well, I'm I'm eagerly awaiting the arrival of that X-ray. I just don't think that I've gotten to that just yet. Um, okay, so as Leland's court hearing begins, Judge Clinton Sternwood releases him on bail, and he also deems Leo incompetent to stand trial. And if you look at Leo in the scenes, yeah, it's obvious that he's incompetent. Sternwood advises Cooper to keep his eyes on the woods. Following a suicide attempt, Ed's unstable wife, Nadine, mentally reverts to a teenager. Now, some people may have thought uh, Nadine mentally going back to being a teenager and thinking she's in high school and all of that is annoying. But I much rather watch Nadine, trying out for the cheerleading squad and trying to get with Donna's ex Mike and all of that, and you know, um, wanting to go get milkshakes at the diner and all that. I find that entertaining because everybody is like looking at her like, "What in the hell is wrong with you?" And Ed is kind of just sitting there like, just go with it. Just go with it. Just, don't upset her. David, you say you should come up to the Mahoin Drive-In to watch it this summer. The guests are shaping up; should be amazing. David, I really wish I could, but I don't think I'd be able to get Steve up there. Actually, um, X-Ray, you say Leo had to me the most contemptible character in the first season. A credit to the actor. Exactly. Now, basically, he's a vegetable. So, but he's still entertaining, though. Okay. Um, let's see. Yeah, so Nadine believes herself to be a high school student and demonstrates unnatural strength, which she seems unaware of. A Japanese businessman, Mr. Tojimura, offers Ben $5 million for the Ghostwood development project on the site of the sawmill. Also, Ben tasks Cooper with delivering Audrey's ransom money. Andy discovers that his sperm count has miraculously recovered, meaning that he could be the father of Lucy's child, but realizes with horror that she has gone to an abortion clinic. Also, realizing that Jean plans to kill him, Cooper and Truman plan to raid One Eyed Jack's. They rescue Audrey, and Blackie is killed. So, no more Blackie, she's gone. But Jean manages to escape. Maddie and Donna attempt to steal Laura's diary, but are caught by Harold. And this is when Harold goes from kind of odd to being downright dangerous because he just freaking literally loses his shit and takes out a gardening tool from his little greenhouse and starts like clawing his face with it. Again, this is the weird quirkiness of David Lynch coming into play once again. And so you've got this, mixed in there, and you've also got, you already have all these red herrings, and um, you know, could they have killed Laura? And then things go on. Nah, they didn't kill Laura, and then somebody else looks suspicious. I think even at this point, um, Harold looks suspicious. I mean, perhaps maybe he didn't kill Laura, but he certainly looks like he's capable of doing someone great harm if they mess with him too much. Actually, you say, isn't it kind of weird how Leo and Brad Dourif, two Lynch regulars, were in Critters 4? I'd forgotten about that, X-Ray. That's hilarious. X-Ray, you say, Mr. Toji Fogo looked like Bobby Lee from Mad TV. Um, the raid at One Eyed Jack's was one of the coolest episodes in the show. It was like a stealth mission in a video game. Yeah, it kind of was. I'm glad you brought that up, X-Ray, because I hadn't really thought about that till you said that. X-Ray, you say Harold kind of reminded me of the Scarecrow from Wizard of Oz. Don't know why. Yeah, when he was calm, but then when I think Uncle Bill is here. Better late than never, I guess. So I'm gonna read this one comment, and then I'm gonna add Uncle Bill. David says, I'm a whole town. Exactly. Okay, so I'm not going to leave Uncle Bill just waiting there. I should, but I'm not going to. So I'm going to add him. Where the hell you been?
Listen, Dana, I'm not even gonna lie. I completely forgot.
Uh-huh.
I just so this is a good news, bad news situation. Okay, so the good news is, depending on how you look at it, I'm here. But the bad news is I haven't watched any of this shit. So
Damn.
I'm just gonna be here for moral support for you, Dana. That's what I'm doing right
Well,
now.
if I tell you what, if you remember anything that like jumps out as I'm talking about these episodes. Because I'll be totally honest, I'm not gonna lie either. I didn't get to watch or rewatch all of them. So I watched most of them, but like, oh, what, 19, 20, 21, those episodes, I might be a little
Hmm.
fuzzy on, and I might have to, you know, peek at my cheat sheet here a little bit.
Okay.
Uh, which, so if you know, if I'm talking about something and you're like, oh yeah, I remember that, um, then just jump right in there or say, oh, I remember something. I want to bring that up. So
What episode are you on right now, Dana?
I am talking about the Orchid's Curse, which is, uh, or no, yeah, that's the one I'm on. See, I'm confusing myself. Episode 12, the Orchid's Curse,
Okay.
where they're where Harold um is, he acts kind of normal. The guy that Donna is going to see, and he's got Laura's secret diary, and so Donna and Donna and Maddie and James try, well, basically Donna and Maddie try to get the secret diary from Harold because they think it might have some clues. He's refusing to give it to Donna because he says it doesn't have any clues to Laura's murder, so he's not giving it up because Laura gave it to him. So there's this one really crazy, I mean, there's a lot of crazy characters in this series, but Harold goes from 0 to 10 in just like 5 minutes. He goes from being calm and cool and collected and talking calmly about these things, but then when he sees that Donna really wants to get that diary from him, he just loses his shit and gets some gardening tool out of his little greenhouse where he's growing the orchids and starts clawing at his face with it. When I was rewatching this, I was like, what in the hell? You know, he just completely flips out.
Uh,
So
oh,
go
I was just
ahead.
gonna say, I don't remember that scene in particular, but I do remember there's a lot of scenes like that that just seem to come out of nowhere.
Hmm. Yeah, you know, the stuff with, and I'm not going to talk so much about it now because the later episodes get more into it, but Leland, I mean, his character has such a uh, an arc. You know, he goes from being a grieving father in the first few episodes to batshit crazy um, by the second season. He's, you know, he was getting there by the end of the first season, but by the second season, he is definitely in a territory which most of us, I don't think, would want to go into. So, um, so anyway, let's see if I'm going to. I don't want to leave anything out here. So, yeah. So that kind of ends the episode 12 with Maddie and Donna trying to get the secret diary, and Harold flips out, and I think he means to do them harm. But they managed to get away and get the diary. So that brings us to episode 13, which is Demons. So James basically shows up in the nick of time, just in the nick of time to rescue Maddie and Donna, um, and Audrey, who has been kidnapped because she just had to go to One Eyed Jacks. She's received a near lethal dose of heroin, and Cooper and Truman identify Jean as a major Canadian drug trafficker. And I wanted to bring this up again, especially since Uncle Bill is in here now, that Jean is played by none other than Michael Parks. And I had totally
Yeah,
forgotten Michael Parks was in
I
here.
did too. Yeah, until like I was rewatching a couple episodes a few days ago, and he popped up in there. But Michael Parks is like one of my favorite
I love that guy
actors.
too.
I mean, he could do anything. It was amazing to me that he was in Kill Bill. I didn't figure that out for like probably years after I saw that he was the what was the guy, the Spanish guy.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Gosh, I'm trying to
I can't remember his name, but I mean, he pulled that off, and like nobody knew it was him.
exactly. Um, so um, so they have to rescue Audrey. So there's a big, rescue mission that they basically go on, and this is going to come into play later because Agent Cooper is going to eventually kind of get in a little trouble for how this was handled because they were going into Canada because I believe One Eye Jacks is in Canada and they shouldn't have been. I guess that was out of his jurisdiction or something. He shouldn't have been over there. And so I don't know why Sheriff Truman didn't get in trouble too, but it's like the big FBI guys come in later and tell Cooper that you're in trouble because you did this. But anyway, so I want to now that Uncle Bill's in here, I want to bring this up and see what he thinks. What I was
Sure,
saying earlier is I never noticed how annoying these three characters were until this time around watching the series. But that dynamic or whatever it is between James and Donna and Maddie just does not work for me. They get on my nerves. That it's super annoying. Donna's always cried all the time, and Cheryl Lee plays Laura Palmer great. She's beautiful and mysterious, and everything works. But when she plays Maddie, now that whole love triangle thing between
uh-huh.
James and Donna and Maddie is just I'm like, "Will
Do
you
you
get
think it
these
was?
people out of here?"
Do you think it was meant to be annoying? Because it seems like
Maybe.
everything's kind of like played way, way over the top with all the lovey dovey like kind of stuff, and
Mhm.
the just it's just way like crazy the way that they play those roles too.
Yeah, because James goes from one end of the spectrum to the other just really quickly because he'll be giving Donna a ring and he'll be oh, we're meant to be together forever, yada yada yada, like fairy tale type stuff. And then the next thing you know, he's
Yeah,
getting all pissed. Oh, I'm leaving. I'm just gonna hop
it's
on my
like Steve.
motorcycle and leave.
Sorry, I just had to do it. It was too
No,
good
it's
not to do it.
okay. But
No, but
I
like you're right though, because remember there's that scene, I think it's in this episode, where he like goes crazy on her, like saying that she's contaminated him or something like that, and like she's unclean and all this and that, and yada yada
that
yada.
might be the episode, yeah, because I remember him
Yeah.
going ape shit and just it's like, dude, what is your problem here? And then you've got other characters that are, quirky and funny, like I love Kyle MacLachlan. I think he's probably
He
one of the best things about that series. I
Yeah,
love
to me, he's like one of the best actors that never really got famous. I mean,
mm,
he was like, he was in this and he was in The Hidden and Dune and a couple other things, but he never really like got like mainstream famous or anything, which is a shame because he's like one of the better actors that never got famous.
and I just find myself laughing out loud at some because like during the first episodes where they're drinking coffee and stuff like that and he spits out the coffee at one point and you think, well, this does he not like the coffee? He says, that's damn fine coffee and hot.
That's I love that scene. Yeah, there's the whole thing with that and the pies and everything like throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
cherry pies and stuff.
yeah, I love both those scenes. Yeah.
And I
But let me
just
ask you this, because
mhm,
I wanted to ask you about this too, because I think it was right around this time in the series too, where they were kind of like hinting at a Cooper Audrey romance.
Yeah.
It never happened, but they
No,
kind of
but
like
there was sexual tension between those two
right now. Do
for
you think
many,
that? I
many
mean,
episodes.
what did you think about that? Would you be for that or like?
I kind of would like to see it, but then on the other hand, I don't I don't know if that would ruin the dynamic between the two characters if they were to actually sleep together or something. You know what I'm saying? If that
That's true.
because I think that sexual tension was part of what made that relationship between the two so interesting was that, Audrey sneaking around and slipping notes under Agent Cooper's door and, her dancing around and just
Hmm.
she was very seductive. I mean, she would
Yep.
just spontaneously, I think it was in the diner in one of the earlier episodes, she just puts a song on the jukebox, that Audrey theme, I guess you would call it, and she's she's doing that little dance, and it's like she doesn't care what anybody thinks of her. Audrey doesn't. Audrey's just there to do what Audrey wants, and I really like that character. I like her character.
I
I
do too.
like I
And
like that better than Donna. I just Laura Flynn Boyle is a great actress, but I was so super annoyed by her character that I'm like, can you just go away for a while? We'll watch Audrey some more because Sherilyn Fenn is just
mhm,
amazing
she
in
is.
these.
It's amazing like how many great people they had in this show. Because
Mhm,
Laura Flynn Boyle was great, and she never really like got famous either, but she should have. I mean,
mhm,
she had a bit of a movie career there for a while. And the one that really should have was, like you said, Sherilyn Fenn, and she probably had the least career of anybody that we've mentioned, really. Like she just kind of
mhm.
was had bit parts in like some other movies coming out after this. I don't understand that at all.
And she's so gorgeous. I mean, the dark eyes, the dark hair, all of that. I just think she's beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, and I think even when the 3rd season came out about 25 years later, she still looked good.
Yeah.
I mean, she's aged very, very well, whereas, not everybody can say that. But she did. Um, what do you think of Nadine, the character of Nadine? It, you've got two characters that were crazy in The People Under the Stairs, and now
Uh-huh.
you also got them in this playing a little bit of a different, dynamic. But by the time of these episodes, Nadine tried to commit suicide, which caused her to have some kind
Yeah.
of mental break, and now
And
she thinks
she
she's in
isn't
high
this like
school.
I was gonna say this is the one where she thinks she's a teenager and yeah, like she gets excited because she thinks her parents have been gone, like so she can like yeah, like they're out of town or something like that. Yeah.
And she thinks that Mike, Donna's ex, likes her, and she's talking
Yeah.
about what cute buns he has. She's just like staring at his butt while he's walking away, and he doesn't want anything to do with her.
I love that actress though. I don't remember what her name is, but I love that actress.
Gosh, daggone, I should know it.
And she's another one that hadn't been in that much either. But yeah, that whole subplot of that, where she's like, what I don't know if that's amnesia or what the hell that is exactly, but she like where she regresses back to thinking she's like a teenager, was always hilarious to me too. Like the first time I saw
And
it.
the whole the look on Ed's face during
Mhm.
all of that, like when they go to the diner and Nadine is, she's dressed like a high schooler, and she's, all giddy and stuff. And she's talking about, trying out for the cheerleading squad. And I don't know if she sees like Norma and Ed, how they looked when they were young, if she's that delusional,
I
but
don't
she's
either.
just she's like, she asks Norma, she's like, "How long have you been working here, Donna?" And she tells her, and it's been a while, and she's like, "No, you didn't work here that long. You can't work here that long." And Ed's like, he's like, "Yeah, that's the way it is. It's like we don't wanna upset Nadine," and he just
Well,
has this look.
you remember the doctor tells him to like play along with the
Yeah,
delusions and stuff like that. So he just kind of like keeps it up. He keeps the charade up that's what's
yeah,
actually going on and everything.
but his
And which
eyes, like,
nobody would ever do that, by the way. Like that's not a
I would
medical
hope not, I would hope
intervention. Yeah.
not. But and all the time he's like this all the time, and it's like, he's afraid something horrible, like something's gonna fall out of the sky on their heads or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, but let me see
Um,
what people are putting in here. David says, "Have either of you watched the 4-hour Twin Peaks Explain video? Worth it, but watch at 1.5 speed." I have not. Have
I
you,
haven't
Uncle
either.
Bill?
Uh-uh.
I'm gonna have to
I've never.
seek that out at some point. X-Ray says Kyle McLaughlin should have been Superman. That would have been interesting.
That would have. Was there a period of time when he was supposed to be Superman,
Uh-huh.
or is that just like wishful thinking?
It could be wishful thinking. X-Ray says Laura Flynn Boyle ruined any chance of the Cooper Audrey pairing.
Do you remember that? There's a story behind that too. Something to do with her. She didn't want that storyline to overshadow like another storyline, and so she killed. Well, that's the unofficial kind of like thing.
Mm.
But there was her and Kyle McLaughlin were dating at the time, I think, and there was something else to do with that too. I can't remember all the details now. It's been years since I
Mm.
even thought about that. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Laura Flynn Boyle was actually the reason why, or that's the rumor was that never happened.
Well, it's like, honey, get over yourself. It's just a show.
Yeah.
X-Ray says one of the reasons Audrey ended up with Billy Zane and Cooper ended up with Roller Girl at the end.
Hmm.
uh, hey, Matt. Matt says, "Yo, I have one of those classic hotel keychains for the Great Northern Hotel. It says clean place, reasonably priced."
Right.
That's awesome. Let's see. X-Ray says Laura Flynn Boyle went full Leatherface with all that surgery and filler. Oh man. Um, so let's see. Let's see where we're at here. So Cooper also in this episode 13 Demons, Cooper returns the ransom money to Ben, whose affection is rebuffed by Audrey. So I think Audrey figures out which side of the lake her dad is on now.
Yeah.
And she's no longer has any illusions of what her father is and what he isn't. And I think she's pretty much, washed her hands of him at this point. Uh, Shelly and Bobby discover that Leo's disability payment is substantially smaller than they expected. That scene is so funny
Is
because
that
there
the one? Is that the scene where he falls into the sheet cake?
I don't know if it's that episode or the one after that, the one
Okay.
just after that one, but the part that I'm thinking about that is so funny is when the guy comes to give them the disability payment,
Yeah.
but
Huh.
they're trying to, like, look like they really are concerned about Leo. They want to keep him at home. That's where he belongs, and he needs this home help because they think they're gonna get a big fat
Yep.
check, and then, when the guy gives Shelly the check, she looks at it, her face just drops, and it's only like $700.
700 bucks. Yeah.
And, so she's telling Bobby, she's like, "I'm gonna have to quit my job at the diner to take care of Leo. How are we gonna live? You promised me you'd take care of me." Um, and he's like, "Babe, I will take care of you." And you know, Bobby's never. I don't think Bobby's ever taken care of anybody in his life
No, I
within
don't
the
think so.
show. I think he's full of shit, basically. Um, well, you're looking at a guy that had how many relationships did he have? He was messing around with Shelley. He was messing around with Laura Palmer. Lord knows how many other women he had, so you can't trust anything that Bobby says at this point, I don't think. Um, hey, John. John says, "What's going on, y'all? I've seen episode one of Twin Peaks. All I can remember is that weird ass music in the hotel where she's dancing."
Yeah.
Um, John
It's
says, "It's
it's
a good show."
I can't, yeah, and that's another thing. We haven't really had a chance to talk about the overall like um dynamics of the show or anything yet, but there really was nothing ever like that on television and nothing ever like it again. Like nothing really came
No.
close. Just the way it was made and like how crazy it was and how
Mhm.
just like the randomness of all of it, where it's basically just like a series of David Lynch dreams and non sequiturs and just
And maybe nightmares mixed in there.
nightmare. Yeah.
Um, and I want to talk a little bit about Bob though, because
Okay.
he's been. You got pieces of him, like little flashes of him during the first season, and that I'm forgetting the actor's name that played him. But that guy creeped me out.
Hold on. I can look it
Um,
up. I'm
because
curious.
Sarah, uh, Laura's mother saw Bob like in the corner and she flipped out. And this was early on. Believe this was like during the first season.
Yeah.
And when you see that guy, I just get cold chills when I see that guy. And then when he's looking at himself in the mirror and he's just like that, it's just so, I don't know, it's so creepy. Um,
Hmm.
and I think that was probably one of the most effective parts of this show is having the Bob character in
I
there.
love the idea too that it's kind of like just a Michael Myers kind of thing where it's just like a
Mhm.
parasite that you know is just into killing and like
Mm,
fear and things like that and that part there's a part in one of those episodes where like they're explaining like what he is
yeah.
exactly. It's just basically like just a maniacal kind of creature like hell bent on just fear and kind of scaring the shit out of people. It does it for
Mhm.
pleasure and stuff like that too. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out who that guy who played that part. Hold on a second.
Yeah, thought
Somebody I know.
I would see, a name in some of this stuff, like my little cheat
Frank
sheets.
Silva.
Frank Silva, that is right. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that guy was great. I don't know if that was David Lynch's idea or whose idea that was to get that guy, but it was perfect. Perfect for
yeah,
this.
yeah. He kind of
And
looks like a obsessed Julian Sands.
yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
X-Ray says Jason Goes to Hell ripped off Twin Peaks.
It did, yeah,
Yeah, because you've got, this being that's got jumping from body to body, basically. and he is a parasite. Bob basically hitchhikes, on the
Hmm.
or inside the bodies of different people. Um, Otherwise, he couldn't. He wouldn't survive. I guess he would just disappear, go to hell. What? I don't know. He'd go
Bob
somewhere.
goes to hell. Yeah.
Yeah, Bob goes.
Um,
We'd have Bob goes to hell.
get this, Dana. I was just looking this up when I was trying to find his name.
Mhm.
Rolling Stone ranked him as number 5 on their 40 greatest TV villains of all time list. So there you go.
I would probably put him up further than that, actually,
Yep.
because eh, just like there was nothing else on television at that time or since, and I don't think there was ever any villain
No, Jesus Christ.
like that.
Some of the shit that happens because of Bob though is crazy that they had on freaking network TV at that time.
Oh
You
yeah,
remember like what I'm talking about? Like
yes.
I was yeah.
And I was thinking about that when I was rewatching some of these episodes. I was like, man, they showed all this on TV. I mean, hard to believe
Yep.
that. And I've told this before, but um, my dad, when the pilot came out, my dad was so intrigued by this, and he loved it. He just ate it up, that pilot. But
Yeah.
as the episodes went on, he tuned out. It like, that started showing more of the log lady
Mhm.
and the dream that Cooper has early on where they filmed it in reverse and did all that weird stuff, and the little guy is like, that scene is creepy too. When he has got his back turned, the little guy in the red suit, um, you just see his back, and it's just like that. It is just so bizarre looking and a little
Yep.
bit creepy. And then the way they talk about, he says, "Doesn't my cousin look just like Laura Palmer?" And Cooper's like, "That is Laura Palmer," you know. And that's another thing too that I want to talk about. I don't know if David Lynch was thinking that 25 years later he was going to, start this back up again.
I don't I don't
'Cause
think so. I don't think David Lynch thinks like 5 minutes ahead of what he's going to do.
but it seems so perfect. I don't know how it seems so perfect, because if you take that one scene of the dream where Laura
Yeah.
Palmer whispers to Cooper, and it's an old Cooper. She whispers to him and tells him who her killer was. And after that, when he wakes up in the morning, he calls Truman, Sheriff Truman, and he says, "I know who the killer is." But then it's like when you ask him, "I don't know." You know, so I
Yeah.
guess that's more of that David Lynch type of stuff, just to keep this going
I
and keep
think
it rolling.
too though, Dana, I think this episode kind of bummed me out in a way because from what I can remember, like because this is really when you start to understand that like you're not going to get a clear answer to what happened to Laura. Like
Right.
it's just not going like it's going to be some mystical supernatural kind of like thing. You're not going to get it's not going to be like a CSI
Oh
kind
no,
of
no,
thing.
no.
You know what I mean? Like it starts taking a turn more and more towards that to where it starts taking a turn more and more towards Lynch, and how he does things.
Yeah, we're getting more into David Lynch territory. Which, speaking of David Lynch,
Yeah.
in this episode, Demons, Gordon Cole shows up, and Gordon Cole is Cooper's boss, and he's played by David Lynch.
Yep.
And I love the character of Gordon Cole. It's so wacky and funny, and he can't hear a thing. And everything anybody says to him, unless you're just screaming at him, He misinterprets it. So there's a lot of funny scenes between him and Cooper and him and
Yeah.
Sheriff Truman. And I just thought that was great. People might have thought maybe David Lynch was indulging himself a little bit by putting himself as that character, but I think it works.
No, I think he basically is like the best actor in every scene that he's in, really. Which is, listen, David Lynch is a really really good actor. Like
Mhm.
oddly enough, like he there. I don't know if he has some sort of like method acting style or what he does to get into character, whatever. But he was in an episode of, I don't know if you've ever seen this show, Dana, but he was in an episode of Louie where he played like what was it? He was like an executive to this TV station,
Mhm.
and Louis was trying to become like the next Jay Leno, and he's the guy that like chooses who the next Leno or Letterman guy's going to. He's
Right.
amazing in that. Like that's one of the best pieces of acting I've seen in any TV show, as well as this too. So he can act,
Oh
oddly
yeah,
enough.
there's no doubt about that. Um, so David is saying, David's very knowledgeable of this show. He says Silva actually worked in set. They caught him in a mirror while filming, and Lynch loved it and then cast him. So
Yeah,
that's a credit.
that's how he casts most people's. He just liked their look.
Yeah,
Like
but
same thing with Naomi Watts and like
yeah,
a lot of the people that he cast.
but I have to credit him for being able to pick those people out and have perfectly cast shows like Twin Peaks. But he's done some other, like, didn't he do some other episodic television? Gosh, what was that one
You
thing?
mean as an actor?
No, that he was actually that Picket Fences show. Did he do that?
Jesus Christ, the one with Tom Skerritt?
Maybe I'm wrong. I just thought he had something to do with that.
He may have. I have no idea.
Maybe David knows. He can
Yeah,
tell us.
I
Uh,
vaguely. I don't think I ever watched an episode of that, but I remember Tom Skerritt being in it for some reason. It's a name you don't hear
uh,
anymore.
oh yeah, you do not. Um, so they find some material outside Cooper's room, following his shooting, was from a Vacuna coat, and that a drug taken by Gerard, and that's the one-armed man.
The literal one armed man. Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Sorry, the fugitive thing. Just yeah.
Is a unique and unidentified substance, and the papers found near the crime scene were from a diary. And Gordon warns Cooper not to get in over his head, referring to a previous incident in Pittsburgh, which they bring this up quite a bit, of an incident in Pittsburgh that kind of gets expanded on a little bit later in the season. Um, and delivers an anonymous message, an opening chess move, which Cooper believes is from Earl. Cooper and Truman interrogate Gerard, who has a seizure, and then he gets possessed by Mike, which is uh, another creepy thing. When he changes into Mike, he's begging them to give him. Gerard's begging them to give him his medicine,
Mm-hmm.
or Mike's going to come out. And they're like, no, hold off, hold off, hold off. Cooper's wanting to hold off because he wants him to change over to Mike. And so there's that whole scene where he's just kind of growling and stuff like that. And it's almost like Bob, just,
Well,
a level below. But
yeah, and he's wanting to get information about Bob, isn't he? And that like the thing like from Mike,
hmm
that's the
because
big part.
Mike claimed that he used to like to, well, actually, I guess Gerard really was the one killing with Bob at one point in time, and that's why he cut off his own arm, because didn't he have a tattoo "Fire Walk with Me"
Yeah.
on there?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think that was the whole thing with that. Yeah.
mhm. And, so when he decided he didn't wanna kill with Bob anymore, then he cut his arm off, and that's why he's the
One
one-armed
arm man.
man.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're literally wanting him to change over to Mike because they're wanting to get more information about what happened to Laura and more information about Bob, which we're still kind of uh, in a haze as far as Bob is concerned. We've seen flashes of him. We know he's not a good guy, obviously. We know he's crazy.
Well, no, and the part of it is too the whole fire walk with me thing.
Mhm.
The to me the subtext around that is that whoever's engaged with that is basically walking with the devil, right? Like, I mean,
I would say so,
that's the
yeah.
thing. Like, you either have to make a deal with the devil or a demon or something like that. Yeah.
Mhm. So I wanted to talk a little bit, because I haven't talked a whole lot about her, but Josie Packard, um, I think Joan Shin, is that
Oh, I
mhm,
love Joan Chen. Yeah, and
yeah.
that's another from the '90s, man. Like, these people just existed basically in the '90s. They didn't.
Yeah, and then they just where'd they go? They
Yeah, just
stayed in
disappeared.
the 90s, I guess. Um, but I was always intrigued by Josie Packard, the character of Josie,
Mhm.
because she's so so passionate. Her and we find out that her and Sheriff Truman are having a fling or a passionate love affair or whatever. Um, here's a scene I was surprised that got put on TV. It's not like it really showed anything,
Yeah.
but it's the part where Josie has a new nightgown that she got on her shopping trip to
Oh,
Seattle.
yeah.
And she's I mean, she's showing a lot of leg. I mean, it's split up the side, and she's a very attractive woman too. And she's basically seducing Harry. And then she tells him, she says, tear it. And he's like, huh? And she's like, tear it. And she wants him to, tear the outer part of this
I that
nightgown. And I'm like, man, that was a little racy for television, I think,
it
even though
was.
it didn't show anything.
But you gotta think though, Danny, that's gotta be like a lynch kink or something. You know what I mean? Like tearing clothings or something like that. That's straight from his freaking head, I guarantee it.
And
Ah,
so, but I liked Josie, and she seemed so sweet and nice, but
mhm.
she would go back and forth where you weren't really sure. I think her love for Harry was true. That was true blue. But the way she felt about gosh, what's his name? Jack Nance's character, the one that's
Good
married to
lord.
Catherine Piper Laurie's character. Gosh, what was his name?
Um,
He was the one that found Laura's body.
I know who you're talking about. What the
Mm,
fuck can I think of the name? Um,
I didn't think I'd forget that. But anyway, she seems like she so um, cares about him. But then there's another scene later on after the fire at the mill, and they
yeah,
think Catherine is dead.
yeah.
And she basically is laughing about she seems kind of amused at the way she pulled one over on him a little bit. And I'm like, I don't like that aspect of her. But then she goes back to being very vulnerable and sweet and, uh, seems to um, be this really nice person. So I think maybe she's one of those characters that just not has a dual personality, but they're dual sides of her character or something.
Again, I think that has to do a lot with Lynch just wanting like a lot of the females in these episodes too, like they have those two parts to them where they're like they can go from being really agreeable to really kind of dominant, and that's probably
Mhm.
that's probably something within his psyche too. You
Yeah,
know,
we probably wouldn't want to go digging around in David Lynch's psyche too much.
no, it's just my guess is that he probably likes like the strong woman kind of theme mixed with the submissiveness part too.
Yeah, I could see. I could just see David Lynch going to a dominatrix or
I could
something.
too. I guarantee he's probably
I
been to
was just
one.
thinking about that.
Yeah,
It's like he's going to go to a dominatrix and say, "I'll be your bitch," you know. You can get these
yeah.
whips. Oh man, we're digging a little too deep into the psyche of David Lynch
I don't know if
there.
you can dig too deep into that though, Dana. Like it's pretty deep. It's pretty cavernous, you know.
Hey, Kelly. Um, and David says, I'm a member of Fuck You Tammy, which is a Lynch tribute band. That's awesome.
Yeah.
We played with various cast members at Lynch events and screenings. Yep, I'm a super fan. Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad to have a super fan in here. I mean, me and Uncle Bill are huge fans of this show and huge fans of David Lynch, but I don't know if I could call myself a super fan. Maybe Uncle Bill
No,
could.
I don't think I could either. I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen these shows. I mean, I'm not saying it's been when they came out, but I mean, it's been quite a while. And
Mm,
so I don't think I would say that I'm a super because super fans go back and watch them like on repeat. I think
ex-
I'm that way with the
excessively.
X-Files. Like I do that a lot. I do that with the X-Files to this day, but yeah.
And I do that with like Tales from the Dark Side, Twilight Zone from the 80s, stuff like that. Um, Not so much Tales from the Crypt, but I still like to watch those quite often. But I've said this before, I think it's a comfort thing and a
It is.
nostalgia
Yeah.
thing because every time I put in Tales from the Dark Side or Twilight Zone from the 80s or something like that, it takes me all the way back to when I was a kid watching those things when I didn't have any worries. I didn't have a job. I wasn't, I love Steve, but I wasn't married. There was no worry at, at, at that point in time. It was just a kid getting to be a kid. And I won't ever get that back, and none of us will ever get that back again. So I think that's why we like to go back and watch those. That's a big part of why we like to. Um, so let's see here.
I love let me just take a minute to say this too about David
Sure.
Lynch and this series. I love the fact that he absolutely refused to explain like what happened to Laura in this fucking series. You know how crazy that is for that time period.
Mhm.
Just because like, television at that time period was based on like, you didn't do stuff like that. Like you had clear cut answers to all these things, and like I just love the fact that he absolutely just kind of like refused to
I
until
do
they like
too, but I think
forced him.
that's a big reason why my dad tuned out and probably why you know, maybe not a lot, but several other people tuned out after soon after that pilot. I think my dad tuned out right about the time that Cooper had that bizarre dream. He was like, I'm
Yeah,
not getting this at all. And so I kept watching it. I continued to watch it and watched it, all the way to the end. And then I was real crazy excited when the third season. I didn't care that it was 25 years later. I didn't care at all. I was like, Twin Peaks, it's kind of making a return. So, um, did you watch all of that, by the way, Uncle Bill?
when it first came out, no,
Or
no, I didn't.
oh, okay.
because I think it was on, wasn't it on Showtime or something like that?
I believe so.
And I
But
didn't have I didn't have anything like that at the time.
I
I
think
went back,
Steve got them for us other ways. I think that's how we were able to watch
yeah, yeah, I had to go back and like kind of watch some of those uh afterwards through, legal means, Dana.
'em.
Wink.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Legal means, yeah. Uncle Bill, he's the straight and narrow. So
Oh yeah.
at least he's going to say that on here.
But okay, from that episode, let's see. Where does it go from there, Dana? What's the next episode?
Um, okay.
Because you're gonna have to keep me on track with these.
um, so I love, before we go to the next episode, I love this quote that keeps showing up in the episodes. Through the darkness of future past, the magician longs to see one chance out between two worlds. Fire, walk with me. And
Mm-hmm.
I just, that almost seems like part of one of the greatest poems ever, you know. So I just love that quote. So moving on though to episode 14, Lonely Souls. Um, so Hawk, and we haven't really talked a lot about Hawk, but he's a deputy, investigates Harold after Donna reveals he has Laura's diary, but discovers he has hanged himself. So that was something else that was kind of gruesome for TV at that time because I mean, you didn't see his face really, but you saw the I guess from about the chest down. And I mean, you obviously knew that he had hanged himself or the character had hanged himself in the show. So um that was kind of gruesome. And he also left a suicide note reading something in French, and I am not going to try to pronounce that. But it's French for "I have a lonely soul."
You want me to give it a shot, Dana?
Yeah, go ahead.
J'ai un âme solitaire.
That's perfect. That's
Je
what
ne
I would have
me no,
mastered
wait.
it.
Je ne me solitaire. That is.
That's perfect in my eyes.
Which is
So
kind of like Italian. It kind of like flows like Italian. Je ne me.
yeah, kind of. So Maddie tells Leland and Sarah that she's returning home because basically she just came there for Laura's funeral. And see, that's something else. Um, Time seems so weird in
Yeah, well, there's
in
no like
episodic television.
narrative linear time.
Yeah. So you feel like, okay, shouldn't a lot of time have gone past? And it hasn't really. Not in the world of Twin Peaks, it hasn't. It might be a
Right.
day or two or last week because there was a scene where Shelley and Bobby are talking about Leo, and it was that scene where he spits and he goes, "New shoes." And Bobby looks at Shelley and he says, did he buy some new shoe? Did he get some new shoes recently? And she's like, last week. And I'm like, holy crap. It just seems like that more time should have passed by. So when Maddie's talking about, I only came in for Laura's funeral, now it's time for me to go back home, it's like, it's just only been like a week or a few days or something like that. But when you're watching these episodes, and especially when it was originally on, and you would get one episode a week or whatever, that's really weird. You couldn't binge watch them then. You
No,
just
I
had
mean
to watch them whenever they came on.
you had to wait, and the idea of that being like some sort of clue too, right? Like that was the part of it that they
Mhm.
thought it was some sort of clue. The
Yeah,
whole shoes thing and all that, and then
exactly.
You had to wait forever to figure out what the hell was going on.
So also Bobby discovers a hidden cassette tape in the heel of Leo's boots because he kept saying new shoes, and so they went and got his new shoes, and they basically took the heel of it and stuff off, and he found this mini cassette tape. And Audrey confronts Ben, revealing that she knows he owns One Eyed Jacks, and Ben admits, and here's a big thing, Ben admits he slept with and loved Laura. Who didn't sleep with Laura and love Laura in this?
Well, yeah, that's another funny part is that like and that's probably tuned out a lot of people too, is because in the beginning, like you're kind of thinking, all right, she's the innocent, victim to
Mhm.
all this, and then you find out like she slept with everybody in the whole freaking like state apparently.
Yeah, and
So
I think doesn't I have yet to watch Firewalk with Me, but that's supposed to give some more background into Laura, right?
yes, yeah,
Okay.
I haven't seen it either to be honest.
But I have it in my box set, so I'm definitely gonna watch it. Um, so let's see. The pages from Laura's diary are reconstructed, revealing Laura was molested and abused by Bob.
Now that's what I was talking about, that they did
Mhm.
that kind of shit like on TV like that. Like I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
it
And we're
was
not
crazy.
talking about like a passing thing. It's a reoccurring theme that keeps coming up.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
and it's you reach a point where it's impossible to ignore. You can't ignore that theme that's just like a thread running through a lot of these episodes, especially in the second season, because by the second season, we're really getting deep into Bob. We're getting deeper into what kind of twisted things Laura was involved in. And Uncle Bill, you're right. It made it seem like Laura was the homecoming queen, the sweet, innocent girl that everybody in town was just devastated because she'd been murdered. Why would
mhm.
anybody want to murder Laura? Well, then, as this twisted tale keeps going, uh, you find out that Laura wasn't so innocent, and she could have made any number of people angry enough to murder her.
Yep,
So things are not always what they seem to be.
that's exactly right.
Mm.
So what do you think when the Ben Horn thing comes in?
Oh, well, all of that stuff about Ben, I never trusted that character from
Yeah,
day one, but he gets worse as as time goes by in the episodes, and but something funny uh is when his brother Jerry, and they're Ben and Jerry. They keep
Ben and
bringing
Jerry.
that up, Ben and
Yeah.
Jerry, and, so when his brother Jerry shows up, who's an attorney, but he's not a very good attorney, as we find out when Ben gets in a little bit of trouble, um, Jerry can't get him out of it pretty much. But I love the interaction between Ben and his brother, because it's so quirky again, but yet they want to talk about when they were kids, and it shows scenes of remember when we were kids and we had bunk beds, and this is when Ben is in jail, and Jerry basically comes to visit him, and there's bunk beds in the jail cell, and
That's right.
he's like, "Remember when we had bunk beds and we were watching?" I forget the girl's name. I don't know if she was a babysitter or what, but they talked about a girl dancing on the rug,
Mhm.
and they kept showing.
Juliet. God Almighty.
That's just, oh goodness. My dogs do that too. So I'm
Drip.
that sounds just like Darcy. Darcy does that stuff too.
This dog, any kind of movement or anything outside, and she'll like
Yeah.
freak out and start barking.
Exactly. Darcy gets up in the window. She'll climb on the back of the couch, and she's already chewed up some of my blinds when we hadn't had her very long because she just wants to stick her head in there through those window blinds. She's got to know what's going on outside all the time. Um, so, is that kind of what you wanted me to say about uh, being Uncle Bill, or was there something
Yeah,
else that you?
no, I mean that was kind of what I was getting to. Yeah,
Okay, so a little bit more about this episode. So Laura was molested and abused by Bob, and that she planned to tell the world about Ben Horn. After Audrey reveals her information about Ben, Cooper and Truman arrest him, and the log lady makes an
yeah,
appearance again.
that's what I was going to say. When they're in the holding cell and the log lady's in there and everything.
She tells Cooper there are owls at a local bar called the Roadhouse. And then Cooper goes to the Roadhouse and he has a vision
Yeah,
of the giant telling him it's happening again. Meanwhile, at the Palmer house, Leland smiles at himself in the mirror, and his reflection is that of Bob. Possessed by Bob, he drugs Sarah, murders Maddie, and places another letter under her fingernail. And at the Roadhouse, Donna, Bobby, James, and Cooper all sense that something has happened or are visibly distressed. Yeah, this is where Donna starts one of her crying jags too. That's sort of annoying. Cooper is comforted by the
Dana,
senile Walter.
you're hardcore, Dana, when it comes to.
Senile Walter comes up to him, and he's this really old guy that I guess he looks like a waiter or something. And I think he comes and pats Cooper on the shoulder, and he's like, "I'm so sorry." And this guy will come back late in a later episode too. So that ends that episode, the Lonely Souls episode, which brings us to.
Just real quick though,
Sure.
what are your thoughts about that episode? Because honestly, like I thought it was one of the better
Yeah,
episodes.
it was because we got a little more insight to creepy ass Bob for
Yeah,
one thing. And that whole speaking of that whole scene where Leland, possessed by Bob, drugs Sarah, that whole scene is so creepy of her kind of like crawling down the steps and crawling across the
yes.
carpet.
Is
And
that the
she's
one with
like,
the records playing and everything?
I believe it is, which makes it
Yeah,
even more bizarre.
yeah,
And then, Maddie comes home, and then the way he runs at her all of a sudden, and he's got those white latex gloves on, and it's real
yeah.
quick.
There's
And
something just absolutely like horrific about the way that shot. I don't know what it is.
yes, it's
Uh,
very, very
there's
bizarre.
also the part where like Bob is Leland and Leland is Bob in the mirror and their faces are like changing and everything. And it
Hmm.
just keeps going back and forth and shit. And that's just so creepily done. David Lynch directed that episode, I'm pretty sure,
I believe he did, yes. And the
which makes sense.
just even when Leland, you're not seeing Leland as Bob. I mean,
Right.
Bob is in him, but the way he smiles, oh, and that's not even Silva doing that. That's all Leland. But he just seems to just have the creepiest mouthful of teeth. I don't know how else to explain it, but he keeps doing that several times during these. few episodes that we're talking about tonight where it's just something is, well, something's completely wrong with him before this, because he's dancing around and he's doing, uh his
Yeah.
hair's turned
Well,
completely white.
the whole thing. Okay, so everybody that has watched Twin Peaks knows that like David Lynch never wanted to do reveal like what happened to Laura. But the network absolutely fucking insisted that they do that because that show got so popular
Mhm.
that there had to be some sort of a like ending to that, right? Well, at least to them there did. So what did he do? He gave them like the craziest goddamn
Mhm.
explanation of that could ever like he knew like it's the most fu kind of explanation of that.
Exactly, that's what I was gonna say.
Right?
That was his big "F you" to the network, basically,
Yeah.
because they tried to make him do something, and David Lynch was like, "Okay, I'm gonna give you this. What are you guys gonna do about that?" You know?
Yeah. So whether it be just like a murder mystery, right, which is what everybody like expected it to be, it
Yep.
turns out to be like a demonic possession slash incest slash father, like just the craziest, like most non PC thing you can think of for the way for that to turn out. And I think
Yeah.
that right there, Dana, is probably what like kind of turned away most viewers because they were expecting like it to go, this way, and it went like a hard right,
Well, I
after
definitely
that.
think that's what my dad thought it was gonna be, that it was gonna be a straight ahead murder mystery, and that everything was gonna fall into place, and it was gonna be neat and tidy and tied with a bow, but that's not David Lynch. That's not his way. It never has been his way,
You
and
gotta respect that guy. I
yeah.
mean, there's only about a couple of guys I respect when it comes to like guys that actually stood up to studios and did whatever they wanted. And you've got David Lynch, probably William Friedkin. Uh,
Mhm.
I
William
think
Friedkin.
Friedkin did the same thing. Who's the guy that directed Conan and all those movies? Jesus Christ. He was another one that just absolutely was so crazy that nobody would mess with him, so he got to do whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
Uh, I can't think of his name.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, and I can't.
The guy that directed all he was huge with like action films and Conan and all that stuff. There's a documentary about him and everything. I can't think of it right now, but somebody will probably notice it at some point. Um, but there was just a subset of those kind of guys that just had a vision for what they wanted to do and
Mhm.
never let anything like get in the way of that vision.
Yeah, and I have major respect for guys like that too. And I'm glad you brought up Friedkin, because I have major respect for him too, because Friedkin wasn't going to let anybody tell him how to make his movie. He wasn't even going to let the damn writer of the novel, and I'm talking about The Exorcist here,
Oh
tell
yeah,
him what to do or how to end it. Because I don't know, Uncle Bill, if you saw that discussion that Friedkin and Blatty had, and Blatty basically said, I didn't want them to the audience to think that the devil won. And
yeah.
Friedkin came back and said, I don't know how they could think that if they really watch my movie, because um, it's obvious that the devil did not win at the end of the movie, and I would
Well,
have to
that's
agree with
the
Freakin'.
that's the beauty part about that movie, though. Is like you take away from it whatever you want to, right?
Mhm.
So at the end of it, you either think one of two things. Like you either think that the devil won because he killed the priest, or you think that, good won because the priest was able to take the devil out of the little girl. So it's like it's open to like whatever interpretation that you want it to be.
I always saw it as he redeemed himself. The priest redeemed himself by getting the demon out of the little girl, and then he was basically able to die peacefully. Because, the demon didn't want to be in the body that was going to die. So it was going to leave at
Right.
that point anyway.
And there was that one scene that they both disagreed on where you remember this too, where it goes from Karis to the demon back to Karis
Yeah.
before he jumps out the window. So it was like you couldn't tell if he was possessed or if like he was like himself or like what exactly was going
I
on.
think he was fighting it
Yeah,
because the hands were going towards Reagan, and then he screams no and hurls himself out the window. So that to me said what it said to me was Karis, his faith and stuff was strong enough that he was able to prevent even being possessed like he was able to break away from that. And see, that was a big thing during the middle part of the movie, I'd say, where Karis tells one of the other priests, he says, "I've lost my faith, Tom." And he tells him he's unfit for the job as the priest, and he needs reassignment and all of that. But then when you get to the end of the movie, you realize that he didn't lose his faith. His faith was there all along.
right.
But I know we got off on an exorcist talk, but when you bring up freaking, I start thinking about the exorcist.
I still
Uh,
think that uh, Sorcerer is probably one of the best movies ever made, and we should do an entire show on Sorcerer. And Dave, if you haven't seen that movie, you need to watch that movie
Trying to
immediately.
remember, I think I have, but it's been a long while. I probably need to refresh myself on that. Uh, I will read what X Ray said. He said, "I never got the impression the devil won. I also hate all the multiple director's cuts that came out afterwards." Now, the one cut I did like was what they referred to when it first came out was the version you've never seen. Of course, now everybody's seen it, but that had, a little bit of the spider walk
Yeah,
scene, and there was a
yeah.
lot of flashes of the demon, and stuff like that kinda
All that
subliminal.
stuff, by the way, was from what I can gather was like freaking trying to like help Blatty out because Blatty wanted there to be like that particular version of the film, and
Mm.
freaking really didn't want there to be. He just kind of thought it was already.
I just think it's interesting, um, just from a, I guess, a historical standpoint. I like to see different versions
Oh,
just to see what
yeah.
people thought,
I
you know?
hate I hate the freaking superimposed little things they put in there in that version because they show
Mm.
up in weird places like when she's in the kitchen, like one shows up on the goddamn stove or something like that, like the
Yeah, when the lights are blinking
yeah,
and
the
stuff.
head and whatnot. So that's kind of silly, but I love the spider walk. I thought that's like that should have been in there, but he said like they couldn't do it because it required wires, right? And you could see the wires back in the 70s because they didn't have
Right.
CG or any way to like take that out of there or anything.
Mhm. X-Ray says, "I guarantee within 10 years, someone will dig up the Shining director's cut."
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
they will. They will. Okay, so I'm gonna jump back into, Twin Peaks territory again. Um,
Where are we
so,
at right now, Dan?
we are on, episode 15, Drive with a Dead Girl. So James and Donna visit the Palmer house to say goodbye to Maddie, but a jovial Leland, and I think that's an understatement. I think he was a
Jovial,
little
yeah.
more than jovial, tells them she has already left. When he adjusts his tie in the mirror, the face of Bob stares back at him. And also, he crams Maddie's corpse into his golf bag. and just, Leland just heads out. I'm going to go play golf or whatever. And that's another scene, you see parts of Maddie's body, and you're kind of not sure at that point in time if he's cut her up and just stuck her in there, or is he just crammed her whole freaking body in there, kind of folded it up and put it in his golf bag.
Hmm.
Um, and he just acts like he's having the best damn day ever. He's just killed his niece, and oh, I'm gonna go play golf. That again is just showing you how crazy he is at this point. How,
Yeah, they really
he
want to drive home the whole like demonic possession thing. Yeah,
exactly. Um, so what else happened in this episode? So Jerry is revealed to be a disreputable lawyer, but he's trying to prepare a defense for Ben. Ben insists he was with Catherine the night of Laura's murder. Okay, I want to talk about this because I don't remember if I talked about this early on in the episodes, but early on, there was an episode where I guess Ben and Catherine had a little fling. And I'm not saying that Piper Laurie was an ugly woman. She's not ugly, but she was older when the
hmm,
when the show was on. And there's a scene where obviously she's not naked. I don't think Piper Laurie was naked there, but she gives the illusion that she's naked because she's sitting up in the bed and she's got the sheet pulled up over her upper body, and Ben is kind of like playing with her toes, and it's not, I don't know, it's kind of cringe. It's kind of a cringy scene, really. Do you remember that scene, Uncle Bill?
yeah. It's kind of hard to forget. Ain't it? Like, it's it's one that kind of sticks with you no matter what. Like, yeah, I'm not entirely sure like why they wanted to do that.
Hmm.
I don't think that that's a maybe it is a Lynch kink or something, but I'm not
Could
entirely
be.
sure. Yeah, I I don't know. It's kind of a hard piece of thing to watch, but I always thought that the part of that episode that stuck out the most was like the what you were talking about with the golf bag and all that.
That's the real standout.
Yeah,
That and showing, the little flash of Bob again.
yeah.
Those two things really, um, in my eyes, were the big things about this episode 15. Um, so so Ben insists he was with Catherine the night of Laura's murder, which Jerry realizes is a poor alibi, given that Catherine is presumed dead. And then, having crammed Maddie's corpse into his golf bag, Leland drives around town in an
Uh,
eerily good mood. And yes, he does. When Truman informs him that Ben has been arrested, Leland acts shocked, but secretly smiles darkly. Later, he is pulled over by Truman and Cooper for reckless driving, and it is indeed reckless. He's gone from one side of the road to the other. He almost
mhm.
kills Truman and Cooper. Uh, and he's actually preparing to kill them with a golf club when they almost discover Maddie, but they are called away at the last minute. Bobby discovers that Leo's hidden tape contains evidence of Ben's involvement in the sawmill fire. Catherine, revealed to have survived and is in disguise as Tojimura, delivers a
Mhm.
cassette tape to Ben, blackmailing him by offering to confirm his alibi in exchange for Ghostwood. Leland stashes Maddie's corpse in the woods, where it's later discovered by Truman and Cooper. But I want to back up a little bit here. How in the hell did these characters not realize that that was
Yep.
Catherine and they disguised? That was obvious. To me,
Yeah,
it was obvious.
I don't know. It's just one of those things where you're supposed to suspend like belief. I think
Evidently.
I'm not sure. Oh,
Yeah, Sammy, if he doesn't, I think I'm going to step away for just a second and make him be quiet so Steve doesn't get up.
no, let Steve get up. I'll smack the piss out of him. Come on, Steve, Steve. It'd be funny though if Danny just did go in there and like smack the shit out of Steve, woke him up, smack him right in the back of the head. Like get a towel and wet one end of it, and then just like crack it right in the back of his head. He'd get up. Fuck.
What are you talking about now, Uncle Bill?
Oh, nothing. I wasn't talking about nothing.
Talking about
Just
me
talking
doing
about Twin
something to
Peaks.
Steve?
No, nope. I would never.
Somebody will tell me in here.
You you'll have to go back and watch this later on to figure
Yeah,
out what I said. Then.
watch what I missed.
Yeah.
Um, so basically, when Maddie's corpse is discovered, it's the same actress and everything. It's Cheryl Lee playing Maddie, and she was Laura, but it looks eerily similar to how Laura was found. I believe they're both wrapped in the
Yeah.
plastic and all that. So that's basically how that episode ends. So Uncle Bill, did you want to add anything to the discussion on that episode?
Um. No, just the fact that like in this, like you get the idea that nobody's safe in these episodes because there's the
Mhm.
whole thing about Bob's not really like afraid to kill anybody, and he kills just like random people, like seemingly for no reason or anything like that.
Right.
And there's one scene where like you were talking about, where it looks like that he's going to bash Coop's head in too with the golf club. So it really sets up the idea that like anything can happen in this series, which
Mhm.
is great. Like that anybody can get knocked off at any time, and like it.
Yeah, like Joe Bob Briggs says, anybody can die at any moment.
Yep, which is great.
So that brings us to episode 16, Arbitrary Law. I'm about to lose my voice now. That probably means I've talked too much. Um, so Cooper asked Truman not to report Maddie's death yet, believing he is on the verge of solving the case, revealing that Mrs. Tremont's grandson had said that French, that sentence or phrase in French that I cannot. You want to give it a try again?
No, I think I butchered it enough the first time.
To her, Donna decides to visit Mrs. Tremont with Cooper and Andy. But when they get there, this is another bizarre thing. When they get to what's supposed to be Mrs. Tremont's house, they find a woman claiming to be Mrs. Tremont, but she's not as old. Donna remembered a really old woman,
Hmm.
despite being decades younger and having no children. Mrs. Tremont gives Donna an envelope containing a page from Laura's diary, revealing Laura shared Cooper's red room dream. Leland is agitated when he sees Donna wearing Laura's sunglasses, and then he receives a call from Maddie's mother, who reports her missing. And Leland looks like he's going to attack Donna, but then he's distracted by Truman, who reports there has been another murder. Donna realizes with despair that Maddie is dead and tells James. And this is when James like gets all bent out of shape and just hops on his motorcycle and takes off. And Donna's like, "Don't leave me, James." And I just want to slap her in the face and say, Go away, Donna. Go sit down, shut up." But then it's also kind of silly the way James just we could have done so. He keeps saying we could have done something to help Maddie, and she's like, and Donna's like, well, what could we do? We could have helped her, and then he's like, I just gotta leave. So, and then
Hmm.
he leaves. He hops on his bike and he takes off. So I'm sure that was a little bit of quirkiness that Lynch wanted to add to it, but I just didn't. That was one thing that I didn't care for. Following his instincts, Cooper brings Ben, Leland, Ed, and Major Briggs to the roadhouse. The giant and the waiter appear, and Cooper recalls what Laura whispered in his dream, and that was, my father killed me.
Yep.
Cooper and Truman arrest Leland, and Bob taunts them. Bob leaves Leland's body, leaving Leland horrified, and Leland actually breaks down, and you feel bad for this guy because if he was all Leland, he would have never done those
That's
horrible
right.
things to
Yeah.
his daughter and the other girls. Um, but when he realizes the horror of what he did to his own daughter over, I don't know how did they ever explain how long of a time that this went on, the molestation and other abuse?
Nah, I don't remember a specific time frame, but it seemed like it was like years.
Mhm. So
Yeah.
it could have been from the time, it's kinda cringy to think, but it could have been from a time when Laura was a young girl and continued till she was a teenager. We don't know absolutely for sure, but, so Cooper basically holds Leland as he dies, and Cooper does this whole thing where he says, basically telling Leland to go towards the light. Leland goes towards the light and he sees Laura. And he says Laura still loves him. She doesn't hate him. And he just basically at peace and dies. So now Sarah's left alone. Sarah Palmer's left alone. She has no husband, and she even said, she says, I've lost my husband and my only child.
Hmm.
So she basically has nobody in her little family. But it seems that the town soon after that kind of bands together. People bring food to Sarah's house, and it's pretty
Real quick
much.
though,
Hmm.
real quick before we get into that though, Dan, what did you think about the whole like sprinklers scene when he dies? Like where the sprinklers kicked
Oh yeah,
on, and then like as he dies, like it all stops, almost like he's been washed away of sins, or like there's something to
yeah.
that.
That's interesting. It is almost like he is being washed clean. That
Yeah.
as he's going to heaven or whatever people believe in, and Laura's there to welcome him to the
Yeah.
afterlife.
Yeah.
It does, yeah. I hadn't thought of that till you said that, but yeah, literally, because you see, once that process starts, and Bob has left Leland, his face completely changes. Um, and goes back to the heartbroken father that he was in, like, the pilot episode when he's told that Laura is dead. Um, and things got pretty crazy soon after that. So now it's come full circle. Basically, he's back to the Leland that he was, but I don't think he was ever all Leland, because he kept talking about Bob was a neighbor, that when he was a little boy, Bob was a neighbor that lived next door or a house or two over or whatever. And I'm going to kill Sammy if he doesn't be quiet. Not really, but
Listen, I hope he wakes Steve up. I just want you to know.
oh God, Dana may not be here to do any more streams if Steve wakes up. so, so
Well,
anyway,
you're right though. So it goes from like Leland to Bob and then back to Leland, although it may have never really been Leland except at the very, very end.
yeah,
And when it
that
gets
was
to that,
probably the true Leland.
yeah, when it gets to that point, you get the idea of like the forgiveness was given to him because it wasn't really him doing the shit. It was
Mhm.
actually just the possession angle of it all. Um, and then they bring up a good point later on in the episode too, which is about if that's the case, if Bob is like this, just this entity, can he ever really be killed, or like, can he ever, never really be rid of him, or will he just keep going around like possessing other people and doing this crazy shit?
Mhm. I think it's probably the latter that he you can't kill him because he's not really a physical being. So he can just keep jumping from body to body forever and ever, I would assume. Um, because again, you can kill the person that he's inside, but you can't kill him.
Yeah,
So I think it would continue on and on.
but
Let's
really, that's to me, that is the conclusion of the Laura Palmer part.
yes,
You know?
yes, it is. That uh, is the end of that story. That's almost like that was a short story in a book of short stories, and this
Mm-hmm.
was just the Laura Palmer story.
Yep.
Now we're going to move into different territory. Okay, guys, I'm going to step away one more time, and it's probably Brandon, and I'll have to bring Brandon back here with me.
Okay. What she should do is just take that dog and throw it on fucking Steve. Wouldn't that be killer? If she just picked it up, just chucked it on him, he's dead asleep. It just it's like scrambled to get off his head. I'm not saying that, that would be a good idea for her, but I'm just saying that's what I would like to do. And just wait until it has to take a big old piss or shit or something, just shit right on his chest. Ain't nothing like a good basset hound chest shitting, as Steve would say. While I'm in here, and Dana's doing whatever Dana's doing. Um, did anybody watch the goriest horror stream from last night that we did with Planet CHH? I'm curious because any kind of feedback about that one. That was a tough show to do, just because like there's no real way to do that. What's the word like? Without it being pure chaos and just naming off a bunch of shit. You all did. Well, that's good. I didn't know if he'd be into that or not, but I'm glad that y'all did. Sleepless is great, man. It's like maybe one of the last really, really great Argento ones.
Marcy, what are you doing?
Hey, come on. Go in there and bird dog him.
Sammy had to go.
Buy it, Matt. God damn it. It's like $6. Buy that.
Well,
How much is it? It's like $6 or $7. Like what? What are you gonna do? You can either buy that or buy like a McDouble and some fries.
McDouble
You
and
can't
some
get anything for $6 anymore.
Mm-mm. No, you cannot. Um, so what did I miss? Uncle
Like I
Billy
said, Dana, you're
buying
gonna
the
have to go back. You'll have to go back. You definitely should go back and watch that part.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Okay, so this brings us to episode 17,
Yeah. So
Dispute Between Brothers.
I got one more episode left in me that I gotta get off here. Savannah's gonna kill my ass, and then
She
we
might
can.
kill me too for keeping you on here this long.
Oh, that's fine. I was late to it anyway.
Well, life gets in the way, don't it? It does for me, I know. Uh,
I'm telling you, Dana, you got to go back and just watch, just watch the stream
I,
over again.
okay. So let's talk about
Mm.
this. Let's talk about this episode 17. So Cooper tells a distraught Sarah that Leland was a victim of dark forces and was not responsible for his crimes.
Right.
Donna tells Ed that James blames himself for everything that has happened. The mayor of Twin Peaks, Dwayne Milford, feuds with his brother. And I'll tell you, that is hilarious. Those two old guys
Mm-hmm.
uh, feuding, and the mayor, I think, is getting ready to marry a very young girl, a real pretty redhead, I believe. Um, so he's feuding with his brother, newspaper publisher Dougie Milford, over. Oh, okay, so Dougie is the one marrying a young woman. With Nadine still behaving herself to be a teenager, or believing herself to be a teenager, Jacoby, good old Dr. Jacoby, persuades the high school administration to admit her as a student. Bobby plans to blackmail Ben using Leo's tape to provide for him and Shelley. Catherine tells Truman that her life was saved after the fire by an angel, which gives a softness, I think, to the Catherine character at that point that she didn't really have before. So, with the murder solved, Cooper prepares to leave Twin Peaks, but FBI agent Roger Hardy arrives. And this is where uh, Cooper is told that he's in trouble for what happened at One Eyed Jack's.
Mm-hmm.
He's been suspended for his illegal raid on One Eyed Jack's, while an RCMP officer angrily reveals that cocaine is missing from Jack's, prompting the DEA to become involved. Ernie is hired by Gene to raise $125,000 by selling cocaine, while the RCMP officer plots to plant cocaine on Cooper's car.
I
Then on
forgot
a
about that.
camping trip with Cooper, Major Briggs begins talking about a mysterious white lodge before a bright light flashes and Mayor Briggs vanishes. And I almost thought that this episode, the way it ended, was kind of like a UFO type of episode.
Yeah. It might be the closest thing to an X Files episode. Well, X Files might be the closest thing to this episode, I should say.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And two, I wanted to bring this up before I forget about it. Speaking of X Files,
Yeah.
David Duchovny, as I believe
Oh,
in this episode,
Jesus
dressed
Christ.
as
Yes,
a
he is.
woman.
Yeah.
And he doesn't look too bad as a woman, actually, with all that
Are
makeup
you
on.
shitting me? Are you shitting me, Dana?
I mean,
Come on.
he didn't look like a super ugly woman. You know, there are some guys when they're dressed as women that they really look bad. I don't think David Duchovny looked that bad.
I don't think you look great.
Well, he
Just
didn't
being
look
honest.
great either, but
But isn't it wild though that like at this time period he was able to get that on television too? Like, I mean, you just
mhm.
who
Yeah, there's
what
all
other
kinds
TV
of
show
things
had
like
that anything on it?
I mean, I don't know if it. I mean, did David Lynch have a lot of pull at that point in time? I mean, did
Maybe.
he really?
I'm trying to think about where he was at in his career because I guess he probably did after the first season of this because like it did so well
Hmm.
that they were clamoring to find out what happened and all that, and everybody like it got such good ratings. He probably could do whatever he wanted at this point. It's
Hmm.
just most people, they don't do the kind of shit that David Lynch would do when they can do whatever they want. he
Yeah,
just,
David Lynch goes like way, way above and beyond what anybody else would do.
yeah.
Um, with unlimited money and unlimited, access to everything, can do what you want. David Lynch kind of took that to the 10th degree or something like that. With somebody saying, "Okay, David Lynch, you can do whatever you want." Oh, I can do whatever I want. Okay, Twin Peaks is what you get if I can do whatever I want. Um, Oh, David brings up something that I hadn't really brought up yet. He said once we get to the James and Evelyn subplot, things just grind to a halt. Yeah, I didn't think too much of that. Evelyn, I believe, was the blonde
Hmm.
that shows up. It's like, why'd you have to put that in there? I mean, it's kind of late in the game to be having some other kind of subplot.
I don't even think he's in this episode, is he? Like he's gone at this point.
I think so,
Yeah.
but there is a kiss scene between him and Evelyn. I know at one point it's like, dude, I are you trying to be Bobby here? You're getting all these women. Why are you doing that? Um, well, X-Ray says I'm going to get canceled for saying that most trainees look like beasts. No, I didn't say that. I just said, some guys, if they're going to dress like a woman, some of them look a little rougher than others. Um, and that's all
Oh
I'm
God, Dana,
saying.
you gonna get
What?
canceled?
No, not.
I don't think I wouldn't worry about it.
So yeah, the UFOs. I thought of it as like a UFO ending, again to that episode. Which, um, Uncle Bill, did you want to bring up anything else about that particular episode? Is there anything that
Yeah, there's one thing
thought?
we didn't really mention is that Clarence Williams the third is the guy that plays the deputy. The what's the guy's
Oh
shit?
yeah.
And for those people that don't remember him, he was in like Half Baked,
Hmm.
and he was in Tales from the Hood, the Mod Squad. Like if you're gonna go old school with it, but yeah, I always liked that guy as an actor too.
Yeah,
Like
he's
he's got a
he's interesting.
crazy kind of energy to him that was good. Is he dead? Did he die? I want to say he did not too long ago.
Maybe. Well, that
Roger Hardy. That's what I was trying to think of. The
that
agent.
guy that Lonnie Van Dolen that played Harold Smith, he
Yeah.
just died last year. When I was looking him up, I was like, "Oh man, he died last year."
Yeah, it's sad. Like we lost so many people. Like a lot of the character actors and stuff.
Mhm.
Let's see. Other than that, Jesus. Mm, I can't think of anything, Dana. My mind's just
It's
mush right now.
it's
Anyway.
funny. Um, X-Ray says, "I think everyone was waiting for that subplot to end. Although James and Evelyn some subplot, I wish it had never been because basically we'd had enough of that kind of stuff." Um, I'm not putting down David Lynch in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying some of those things with the love triangles and stuff like that was just, I don't know. I don't think it added anything to the show really. I think the show would have been great without all those different things. Um, which Uncle Bill, before I start talking about episode 18, are you gonna have to bow out?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to before I get absolutely murdered. But um,
Tell Savannah I'm sorry about that for keeping you.
oh, that's fine. I'm gonna try to make it a point to make sure I rewatch the season 3, which I haven't seen all of ever, I don't think, and which I saw like only briefly
Mm.
around the time that it came out.
Well, before you get off here, Uncle Bill, I want to tell you. I mean, I don't know if he'll be able to, but when I do the final part of this original series, and of course, I'm going to talk about Fire Walk with Me
Oh yeah.
on that episode too. So if you want to and can join me for it, you're welcome to. Anybody else is welcome to join as well.
No, Dana. I only want it to be me. Ain't nobody else fucking can join. No, I'm just
Well,
kidding.
yeah, you guys heard it from Uncle Bill. He says only he can join.
I'm just kidding.
I
That'd
know.
be, that'd be so killer if I serious about it. Um, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it at some point too.
And then I'm going to cover season 3 too after I'm
Dana,
done
you're
with.
doing all kinds of shit though. You got like what, like Hitchcock's going.
Me and Kelly
You've
are doing
got
Hitchcock films.
you got this going. Then you had Tales from the Dark Side. I think that's over with though, and then you do the
Yeah,
last.
and then
Okay.
after I give TJ about another week, he said give him about 2 weeks. We're going to do monsters.
Oh my god. Yeah, I'd forgotten that show even existed.
I think a lot of people forgot that show existed. To be
Uh
honest,
huh.
um,
When you gonna do Erie, Indiana, and then
I think CK asked me about Erie, Indiana. Actually, he asked me about something.
you could do that, and then Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, and
I don't think I've ever seen one episode of Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. To be
wow,
honest,
you're in for a fucking treat.
really.
Yeah. Well, you would be if you were 13 years old.
So,
You know,
is Savannah nearby?
she's in the living room.
Uh, I was gonna say you should ask her when she's gonna come on one of my streams.
She ain't never gonna
I
come on
still
these
want her to
streams,
come on
Dana.
one.
I've asked her about it. I've asked her about doing it, but
And
she's
she
just
was
not.
like, "No."
She's just not ever gonna do it.
Oh,
She's
bless
way
her
too
heart.
shy.
She's knowledgeable enough about horror and stuff and movies in general that I think she would do great.
If you, honest to God, if you did Are You Afraid of the Dark show, she that'd probably be the closest she would ever come to coming on because like that's her favorite show.
Well, if it would get her on here, I'll watch episodes of it and we can cover it.
We'll see. I'm somehow doubting it, Dana, but we'll see. But
Well,
I'm gonna hop off here though. I
well,
thank you again, Dana.
yeah, I want to thank you for being on here. I was just kidding
Sorry I
about
was late.
being. That's okay. I just like yanking your chain a little bit. So, and you like doing that to me too.
listen,
So,
listen. Speaking of which, go back and make sure you watch this episode.
oh lordy, am I gonna have to edit anything out? Like,
Maybe I doubt it though. Make sure Steve watches it too.
I don't know. He's so grumpy sometimes. I don't know if we want him to. You never know how he's gonna take stuff. Sometimes he'll be fine with it, and other times he'd be like, "Oh, why is people saying that about me? They think I'm
here's the
an
here's
asshole."
the here's the beauty part about it. I don't give a fuck how you take it. So just do it.
Okay.
But I don't want to get you in trouble though. So you just watch it. Just watch it, and then you can screen it, and then figure out like if you want to show it to
He
anybody
never
else.
watches my streams anyway. He doesn't ca he didn't give a shit what I'm doing, really.
I don't even think he knows he's in the world half time anyway. If he's like going to bed at 6 p.m. But that's another story for another day.
Sad, sad. Oh, but anyway, thanks, Uncle Bill, for being on here with me, and I'm gonna cover these last few episodes, and then I'm gonna get off here too.
All right, I'll see you then.
All right, bye-bye. Okay, so now you guys got to have a little bit of Uncle Bill time. Now, for these last few episodes, it'll be just me. I will try not to bore people too much. So I'm going to try to go through these as quickly as I can. So we are on episode 18, The Masked Ball. So Gordon warns Cooper that the DEA is sending Denise Bryson, who's a friend of Cooper's, to investigate the missing cocaine. Cooper maintains his innocence, insisting he must focus out beyond the edge of the board. Riding his motorcycle on the open road, James meets a woman named Evelyn Marsh, which yada yada yada. We don't really care about that, but I'll tell you about it anyway. At a bar, she hires him to fix her husband's car. Trying to impress Lucy, Dick and Andy mentor an orphan named Nikki Needleman. Hawk reveals that the White Lodge is a mythical place where spirits reside, and that those traveling there must first pass through its counterpart, the Black Lodge, where the souls of those with imperfect courage will be annihilated by their shadow selves. Denise arrives in Twin Peaks and starts her investigation. Josie reveals to Truman that she worked for a man in Hong Kong named Thomas Eckert, who she believes to be responsible for her husband's death. And Denise, if I'm thinking right, is David Duchovny's character. And that Eckert wants her back. Cooper receives a letter from Earl containing a chess move and a cassette tape saying the king must die. Andrew Packard, Josie's husband, is revealed to be alive and scheming with Catherine to use Josie as bait for Eckert. Okay, so this is another case of things are not what they seem, people are not what they seem. And as most of the time the case in David Lynch territory, things are neither all black nor all white. Okay. So, and I think a lot of you that have watched these episodes, you totally get that. Actually, you say Steve fought hard for his country during World War II. He deserves to not know where he is at the time. Oh, man. Matt, you say season 3 is so weird. I need to rewatch that. You say I almost didn't like it at all. Yeah, I think a lot of people were on the fence about that. David, you say Lynch was out filming Wild at Heart by this point in the second season. Actually, you say, are you afraid the dark was banger? Well, I'm definitely going to have to look into that. And you say, so was Erie, Indiana. And David, you said betrayed. At least he came back to stick the landing at the end of the season. Okay, so daggone. Insane is barking like a mad person out there. Okay, so I don't know why my mouse keeps acting so weird. I don't click to close these things and it just decides it's going to do what it's going to do, right? Okay. So, hold on, guys. So, this brings us to episode 19, The Black Widow. So, in an erratic mental state, Ben hires Bobby to tell Hank, who is working with Gene and Ernie. Cooper inquires about buying property in Twin Peaks, touring a bungalow named Dead Dog Farm. He discovers tire tracks and cocaine. Dougie dies of a heart attack. Dwayne accuses Lana, who has an intoxicating effect on the men around her, of murdering Dougie with sex. This is another thing that's kind of racy for television. Nadine joins the high school wrestling team and easily defeats Mike, whom she has a crush on. Evelyn's brother Malcolm reveals to James that Evelyn's husband beats her regularly, and that she damages his car in retaliation. While changing a flat tire with Nikki, Dick narrowly avoids injury when the car falls off the jack. Major Briggs' superior, Colonel Riley, informs Cooper that the Major's disappearance is a matter of national security and that the message he shared with Cooper originated from the woods near Twin Peaks. Threatening to give her up to Eckerd, Catherine employs Josie as her maid. So Catherine's got Josie totally under her thumb at this point. Cooper publishes his response to Earl's chess move in the newspaper, but Earl anticipates his response. Denise blackmails Ernie into helping her, and Cooper create a sting for Jean. Major Briggs miraculously returns in his living room. And guys, I'm going to have to go get Sammy in so he'll hush. What in the world is wrong with that dog? Get in here and be quiet. What's wrong with you, Sammy? You're going to wake Daddy up even barking out there. Sorry about that, guys. All right, so I'm going to try to cover these last two episodes kind of quickly because it is 10:34. So episode 20, Checkmate. So Major Briggs, bearing 3 triangular scars below his right ear, recalls a vision of a giant owl. And we saw this giant owl in an earlier episode. And I believe that the owl is hinted to be harboring the spirit of Bob. He becomes upset, wondering if his experience was meant for his soul. He tries to explain to Cooper that the Air Force has been unofficially searching for the White Lodge, but they are interrupted by soldiers who escort the Major away. An anxious Ernie calls Jean to arrange the sting operation at Dead Dog Farm. Dick becomes paranoid that Nikki may be a personification of Satan and enlists Andy's help in raiding the orphanage files to investigate. Ben comes to believe that he is Robert E. Lee and reenacts the Battle of Gettysburg, changing history so that the Confederacy won. James finishes fixing Evelyn's husband's car, and they have sex. I don't remember that sex scene, nor do I really want to. Truman deputizes Cooper as they leave for the sting. Jean folds the sting and holds Cooper hostage. Denise distracts Jean, allowing Cooper to shoot him. A power outage hits Twin Peaks. Leo finally awakens from his coma, startling a terrified Shelley. Cooper, Truman, and Hawk discover that the power outage was caused by a fire at the power station, and that Earl has planted a corpse in Truman's office with one hand pointed at a chessboard. Actually, you say season 3 was baller, but that first episode was so weird that it felt like a completely unrelated show. I'm going to have to go back and review them because, like I said, I'm going to cover a stream just on that season 3 as well. David, you say I agree. Huge fan of season 3. Actually, said most of that first episode was about 2 characters in a room watching a glass box that we never see again. Yeah, it's starting to come back to me now. So that brings us to the final episode of tonight, episode 21, Double Play. So Cooper accurately predicts the corpse's wounds. Leo corners Shelley with an axe. Bobby arrives at the last minute, distracting Leo long enough for Shelley to stab him in the leg. Wounded, Leo wanders away into the night. Lucy and Dr. Hayward scorn Dick and Andy's efforts to prove Nikki's malice, revealing Nikki is the victim of a lifetime of tragedies. Cooper reveals that years ago he and Earl were assigned to protect Earl's wife, Caroline Powell, after she witnessed the federal crime. Cooper admits to having loved Caroline and that she died after he was wounded by an unseen assailant. Cooper believes that Earl committed the crime Caroline witnessed and that he murdered her. In a delirious state, Major Briggs confesses that he believes he was taken to the White Lodge during his disappearance. Thomas Eckert arrives in Twin Peaks. Jonathan is found murdered in Seattle, leading Cooper and Truman to suspect Josie. Evelyn reveals her husband has died in a car accident, leading James to realize that she and Malcolm, revealed to be her lover, have framed him to kill her husband. Leo stumbles through the woods into a log cabin where a man introduces himself as Wyndham Earl. And guys, I have officially reached the end of this week's stream for Twin Peaks. And we got one more stream. I may have to get with Uncle Bill to see what day would be good for him, so that he could join me on that last one. And then eventually I will be starting a stream for season 3 of Twin Peaks. And also, when I cover this final stream on the original series, I'm going to be covering Fire Walk with Me. So I'm finally going to get a chance to actually watch Fire Walk with Me. And I think that's going to be a real treat for me. Being as big a fan, I'm not a super fan like David, but I'm a pretty big fan of Twin Peaks. So it is now 10:39, and I'm going to have to take care of the dogs and make sure everybody is, taken care of, and make sure Brandon's okay, make sure Sammy settles his butt down and all that good stuff. But I want to thank all of you guys for being in the chat tonight. We had varying amounts of people throughout the night, and I am pleased that all of you joined us for this. And I want to, in case Uncle Bill goes back and watches this again, I want to thank Uncle Bill for being on here for the majority of the episodes that I talked about tonight. Matt, you say, I'll try to watch Fire Walk with Me for that. It's very weird too. David, you say, I think you'll really enjoy Fire Walk with Me. I'm betting I will. And on that note, I am going to skedaddle on out of here for the night, and I will see everyone on the flip side. Y'all have a good night now.